Well, I managed to get a PS5 at launch. Now, I wasn't really going to bother with an impressions video because I didn't think I'd have much interesting or different to say, to be honest. And you know, the last thing we need on YouTube is another console unboxing video, but it turns out maybe I do have a slightly different take on things. So let's talk about my first day with the PS5. Now, after the kind of setup process of it, the first thing I did was, like most folk I think, I went into Astro's Playroom, and that game's just as I heard, you know, it's the best tech demo ever. I mean, the stuff it does with the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers is really cool. I mean, I can't really describe it, it's just one of the things you need to feel in your hands really. But aye, that was a lot of fun. Now, I tried to avoid seeing things like the UI and unboxings and stuff before I got my PS5, but I'd heard quite a few impressions of it, you know, just on podcasts and YouTube or whatever. And the overwhelming opinion to me seemed to be that it's the controller that sets the PS5 apart from, you know, the Xbox Series X and, you know, even the PS4. And I got to say, my first impressions are, I don't love it. This is part a me problem and it's part a problem with the controller. So the me part is that I've got something wrong with my hands, right? It's either nerve damage or arthritis or something else, I don't know. No one can figure out what's quite wrong with me, but you know, unless I take this prescription that makes me feel tired and stupid for quite a lot of the day, it's kind of bothersome for me. But you know, I can normally play a standard third-person action adventure fine. But with this controller, with its like non-stop rumble and adaptive triggers, my hands felt like rubber after about 20 minutes of Astro's Playroom. Now, I'm definitely not resigned to my hands feeling like this for the rest of my life, you know, I'm always trying to find ways to treat or cure myself, but you know, I'm guessing this isn't why you clicked on the video. But you can turn all this off, you know, the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers, and then you're back as you were on PS4, so that's fine. It's just that I personally won't get much use out of these features, but you know, that's fine, that's not Sony's fault. The adaptive triggers and vibrations default setting is strong as well, so you know, I set it to medium and it was a lot better for me. But that's not really my problem. My main problem's with the D-pad. Now, if you follow this channel at all, you might notice like the last few years I've been playing more and more 2D games. The very last PS4 game I played was The Messenger. I've always got Street Fighter 2 on the go. I played a lot of Sonic Mania, all of the old Contra and Castlevania games recently as well. So I'd say that probably I use the D-pad a bit more than your average PlayStation user. And I've never had a problem with any of the PlayStation D-pads, but this one just feels a bit like stiff and mushy. Like, I'd probably manage fine with platformers where I'm just using it to go left and right, but for fighting games where you need to use it for precise inputs, you know, it's just not good enough. I mean, I can still use my DualShock 4 with my PS4 games, you know, like the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, but I mean, what do I do when Street Fighter 6 comes out? You know, I'm not going to start playing with an arcade stick. I mean, I've been pad my whole life. So I thought, alright, great, the D-pad's like an Xbox D-pad. Oh well. But then I noticed something else. It was like the overall shape of the controller. So I seem to have had to work a bit harder to keep a hold of the thing. It's a bit bigger and heavier than before, but I don't think that was the problem for me. I think the PS1, 2, 3, 4 controllers were a little more concave than the DualSense, and the DualSense is a little more convex. Yeah, those are the right words. I mean, it's a really small difference, but what I was finding was, when I'm holding a controller, as you can see I'm trying to model here, I think my hands have a tendency to rotate like this, but with the DualShock 4 being shaped as it was, this prevented my hands from rotating too much. But with the DualSense, there's kind of less resistance to this rotation, meaning bad times had by all. So, this means I'm going to have to look in the murky alleys of extreme third-party controller grips, making this ensemble even more attractive, you know, or better yet, I'll become the coolest kid in town and get myself a pair of gamer gloves, neither of which are free by the way. But then, know what happened? I started playing Miles Morales, and all my wee nitpicks and bitching kind of started to fade away, because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. The PlayStation for me has had the best console exclusives for a good while, and when you're locked into a quality game, you just remember that's what's most important really. I've only played a few hours of Miles Morales at this point, but I was immediately 100% in on it. You know, even though it got really good reviews on its release, I actually think the PS4 Spider-Man is a little bit underrated, just because it came out around the same time as God of War, a game that got far more critical praise, but for me isn't quite as good. Now, Miles Morales isn't a proper sequel, it's just more of the same, But I really liked the Miles character from the first game, and I actually watched Spider-Verse the night before I got my PS5, so I was all ready to go, and I'm loving it so far. But this isn't a Miles Morales review. I might do that later if I've got anything original to say about it, but I don't know if I will, to be honest. But what I should say was I was kind of resting my controller a bit on my lap, and that seemed to help the slipping problem a bit at least, so there's that. But then I went back for more Astro's Playroom, and man, that game is really good. It's like an interactive PlayStation museum, but it's got better controls than like most proper platformers, so yeah, that's the games. But moving away from games, let's have a wee look at the UI and the overall features. Now you can capture footage at 1080p and in HDR without messing up the colours, so that'll be good for this channel at least. And there's a few more options in terms of how you record, in terms of timing as well. What's also new is that when you start recording, there'll be a wee timer at the top of the screen at all times. I guess that's handy for when you're not sure if you've started recording or not. And another cool feature is that you can record your whole session up to the point you've hit the create button. Obviously this will eat into your limited hard drive space, but you can just whack it onto an external drive if you want. One of my biggest wishes on PS5 was for better streaming options. I was hoping for some kind of integration with OBS, or something where you could have your own overlays and put transitions and stuff, have your starting screen like you would on a PC. I think I was hoping you'd start broadcasting on your PS4 and OBS on your PC would just magically pick it up, but I guess that was like wishful thinking. It's pretty much the same as PS4 at this point. Maybe we'll get an update at some point, but not much different. The overall UI itself for the PS5 is pretty minimal. I actually really liked the look of the PS4 one, to be honest, with the tiles and the colour scheme, but this is fine, no complaints really. One thing that I hoped would be included, and is a separate volume slider for music and video. So what that means is, say on PS4, if I was running Spotify and I wanted a game of Pro Ev at the same time, there wasn't a universal slider just for game audio, so I'd need to go into the audio options into Pro Ev and individually turn down music, sound effects, crowd, commentary, but now I can do it in 2 seconds from the home screen. Or, I could just be like everyone else and just listen to Spotify on my hi-fi, but whatever, options there. Another thing I like is that the PS Store is integrated into the console itself rather than being a separate app, and it kind of mirrors how it looks on the phone app too, but where's the deals? The deals aren't there. I mean, unless I was buying a game on release date, 99% of my time on PSN was looking at the deals. The phone app looks just the same and there's a deals tab on that, but it's not on the console. I mean, we've just started Black Friday sale, Resident Evil 3 is only £15, what's going on? But one of my favourite features of the PS5 in the day or so that I've been messing about with it is that it keeps track of how long you've been playing each game in your library. I know you've probably been able to do this on Steam since like 2004, and Sony were miles behind on this, but they're finally here. And even better, it tracks all the PS4 games you played too. I really like analytical data about yourself like that, I always look forward to that Spotify yearly review, so yeah, I really enjoy this. For the record, my top game was The Witcher 3 at 220 odd hours, but that's nothing. A few of my mates had logged over 600 hours into Modern Warfare. I think that would have been when lockdown hit and everyone was playing Warzone. Aye, but addicts, man. So that's just kind of my initial thoughts on PS5, in no way is it a review, nothing definitive, nothing's blown me away yet. But I mean, a lot of PS4 games just look so good, it's getting harder and harder to improve on. I remember being a bit surprised at how much better Killzone Shadowfall, which was a PS4 launch game, looked than Last of Us, which was a late PS3 game, but I just don't even know if that's possible anymore. I mean, maybe it's Demon's Souls or NBA 2K21. I really wanted to buy both of those games, but I had to go with Miles Morales and I can only afford one right now because these games are getting more expensive. But yeah, like I said, I gotta say I'm a bit disappointed with the controller, especially when I've seen nothing but praise for it. And I'm curious to see if anyone feels the same as me, so please catch me on Twitter or comment below if you want to share your thoughts with me, and thanks for watching.